Good afternoon, jury and all my colleagues. I am Nguyễn Thị Hải Anh, and today I'm very happy to have chance being here and present my research on comparison of biparametric and multiple parametric MRI in the diagnosis of prostate cancer. Is the dynamic contrast enhancement need for the routine examination? Okay. What slide for the next? I cannot next slide. Okay, sorry. PARAT is a system used to classify the risk of prostate cancer on MRI, which is well known amongst both radiologists and urologists, especially the version 2.1. And over time, it has shown high impact throughout the numerous studies, and it was widely applied on the clinical diagnosis and especially on the urological guidelines. And PARAT is a range from 1 to 5, which PARAT 1 is very low for prostate cancer, and PARAT 5 is very high. And this diagram illustrates how we calculate the score PARAT based on the image characteristic on T2, DWI, and DCE. And the commit also suggests how we calculate the score when one of these sequences were unaccessible. And I want to direct your attention on the first diagram, which is the most important and relevant. And on this diagram, we notice that the disease only presents its value on the PARAT 3 for the peripheral zone, which raise a question about the cost and benefits. It has a limit role, but the cost is quite significant, it including time consumption, the financial cost, and as well as the risk related to gadolinium. The consideration lead to the question about the position of DCE on the routine prostate MRI, and a protocol biparametric without DCE were proposed. And so that's why we conduct this study with two objectives. The first is to evaluate the role of DCE sequence in the diagnosis of prostate cancer, and the second is to compare the reliability and the diagnosis performance of biparametric and multiple parametric MRI using the PARAT 2.1. This is a cross-sectional descriptive research were conducted in the radiology department of the hospital with selection and exclusion criteria described as below. We have 82 patients with 328 lesions. In addition to the data on patient 8 and PSA, we also collect the data on image and the pathological result. On image, we calculate the PARAT score for both biparametric and multiple parametric MRI, and we categorize PARAT 1, 2, 3 as negative and PARAT 4, 5 as positive for prostate cancer. And then we compare them with the pathological result to determine the diagnosis value. The first result arrived on the correlation between the DCE lesion and pathological result by location. And we found that the DCE is only significant for the tumor in the peripheral zone and non-significant for the transition zone. With the 76% of tumor in the peripheral zone shown DCE positive. Meanwhile, this number for transition zone is 47%. So DCE sequence should only be used while we have the sufficient lesion in the peripheral zone. When we evaluate the value of DCE, we found that the DCE had a really low sensitivity. This low sensitivity is mainly due to the difficulty to distinguish cancer from the other common conditions like prostate hypertrophy or inflammation, and especially when the lesion is diffuse. In comparison to each stage of MRI, we found that the DCE is only change the PARAT score in 3 over 328 lesions. That means it accounted for less than 1%. This is quite similar with the conclusion of Vegas that the DCE sequence increased the diagnosis value for only 3% of peripheral tumor lesions were not significant for the transition zone. And this chart is compared the biparametric and multiple parametric value. And similar with the finding of some the other big study in the world, we found that all the value like sensitivity, specificity, as well as accuracy of the biparametrics is really high and non-inferior in compared with multiple parametric MRI. And when we add the DCE on the protocol, it just slightly increased the sensitivity from 87 to 89% and did not affect the specificity. So why should we consider using the biparametric? Then there is several reasons. The firstly is the faster examination. Biparametric MRI is not only shorten the time for imaging, it's only shorten time for prepare the patient. It including the time for make the renal functional test or make the intravenous line. And second, it reduce cost. According to research published in 2019, in addition to save like 3 minutes for each examination, biparametric MRI is also reduce the cost as a significant number of 37% for each patient. And so thirdly, reduce the risk related to gadolinium. We all know that the gadolinium is quite safe, but the adverse event and the risk of brain and renal deposition is still remain. And the most important, as I said below, the biparametric MRI have a non-inferior diagnosis performance in compare with the multiple parametric MRI. So should we remove complete DCE for some prostate MRI? And the answer is no. DCE is also had a positive effect. Despite its limited role in the overall PIRAT assessment, DCE is an independent predictor for prostate cancer, especially in the peripheral zone. And second, in the clinical practice, DCE is considered as a backup sequence, especially when the DWI is regressed by the active or the signal-to-noise not inadequate. And this chart illustrates the correlation between the DWI score and the DCE, and we see that they have a really good correlation with the odds ratio like 2. So that means when somehow DCE could replace the DWI value when the DWI is unusable. And after that, DCE also have to highlight the potential abnormality and improve our confidence regarding the presence and the nature of the lesion. And lastly, it's always essential for the local recurrent after treatment when the current PIRAT assessment do not apply. So with all this discussion, we recommend that we should consider biparametric MRI as the initial protocol with the real-time monitoring to decide the need of the gadolinium, especially when we have a suspected peripheral lesion or degraded imaging quality, especially for in 2 cases. The first is the case who have a very low pre-test prevalence, and the second is a patient who have a high risk, who is unlikely to have benefits from the gadolinium. And I would like to call my presentation at a clinical case. It's a 61 years old patient with a PSA density is very high at 1.4. And on image, we found a lesion on the left peripheral zone with the border irregular, very bright on DWI and hyposignal on ADC. And what's the PIRAT score which you like to give for this lesion? And it's easily to give the PIRAT 5 for DWI and the PIRAT 5 for total PIRAT. And the pathological result of this patient is an adenocarcinoma with lesion at night. And you may know something missing here. We have ABC without C, ABD without C, right? And this is the DCE missed, but the DCE information wasn't needed in this case, and it should be scattered in this case. So that concludes my presentation, and thank you all for your attention.